Hello and welcome back to Downtime Activities, and welcome to the start of something new. Another Star Wars RPG game. This one, kind of Age of the Rebellion, kind of separatist fall. We're using lots of different source books for all of these different stories, and these stories may all come together in ways you don't see coming just yet. But with this one, we're going to be following the story of our current hero, Commander Badger. And Commander Badger, former clone trooper, former ARC trooper, I guess still technically clone ARC trooper.
He is still a clone ARC trooper, but a former ARC trooper of the Republic.
That's right. And now a training officer of the Empire. You are currently stationed on board a Imperial Star Destroyer that is known as the Titan. And the Titan is commanded by Commodore Sonoma Carr. And Commodore Carr is a pretty ruthless, though effective, Commodore who is in charge of an Imperial Naval Academy, basically. Her specific role is as a kind of end of schooling naval officer and stormtrooper ship commander. And then these end of training stormtroopers, as well as end of training naval officers, go on board the Titan, and it's kind of their last rite of passage in order to complete their training and become full-blown troopers and officers. These two different branches, up till this point, have both been, as far as you've been involved in, trained by previous clone ARC troopers. Yourself, as well as Captain Hyde, who was a clone ARC trooper commander as well. Not related to your unit, but you've known him since the Republic fell. And he is in charge of more of the Imperial Naval officers training. He trains more in like strategy and tactics with them, whereas you've been more a head trainer for the Stormtrooper battalions that come through here in more of a like combat role training officer. Okay. The Titan is currently kind of between multiple different systems and doing different training exercises, and that's your current kind of role. And you've been on this for years at this point. This is a couple of years, or a number of years after the rise of the Empire, and so this has been the role that you've been in for at least the last couple of years as a training officer. Go ahead and give just a brief description of Commander Badger.
Well, as you know, he's more unconventional from the ARC troopers from later on during the Republic's final years. He never switched out from his Phase 1 ARC trooper armor. It's one that he is comfortable with, so he just never swapped, even though he was reprimanded about it many times. His armor's very distinguishable, because as most ARC troopers, he has the double pauldrons. Okay. Whereas he has ammo kits on his belt, along with like the kind of, I don't know what you call it, like the skirt kind of thing that they would, the half skirt thing that they would wear. His armor itself was a kind of a navy blue color, but there were green accents all along the edging of his armor. And he also was he also had the visor to kind of go over the T, like you would see with compared to like Commander Cody, he had that visor. Other than that, no distinguishable. He obviously, as a clone, he looked like every other clone. Buzzed hair. I would say at this point, as far as age goes, he would probably be considered. He would only be 14, but he would look as old as any of the other clone troopers of that time because of their accelerated aging. As you mentioned, he had his own squad, which, things turned out the way they did because of Order 66.
So now you as a loyal member of what was the Republic and is now the Empire have gone along and are an officer now in this training position on board the Imperial Star Destroyer, the Titan. As I said, it is captained or run by a Commodore, Sonoma Carr. A couple other people you know on board. You, of course, have Captain Hyde, who's kind of your counterpart in training, just kind of on opposite ends of that spectrum. In your actual kind of division, or your section, this Stormtrooper commanding area, there's also Lieutenant Raz Aldell. Lieutenant Aldell is not a clone or anything like that. He's an Imperial naval officer, but he's your kind of accomplice. The two of you primarily head as far as the actual exercises and training of the Stormtroopers on board this ship. The only other real named individual you would know on board is the medical officer, which is Medical Officer Drake, and that's the person in charge of medicine on board. He brought plenty of people after any sort of training incidents or things gone awry once live blaster fire is involved to them. Apart from that, there's a number of other officers and stuff on board the vessel. It's a Star Destroyer, for Christ's sakes. There's plenty. But those are the ones that you've had kind of direct interaction with.
Okay.
On this day in particular, this is a fairly new batch of recruits. You've kind of had a recent turnover of your previous group of Stormtroopers in training, completing their training, and then they're no longer on board the Titan. They get shipped off to wherever they're needed in the galaxy. And so you have a fairly fresh batch of recruits. They've been on board for maybe about a month now, and so you've gone through some of they're kind of comfortable, they know where they're staying and stuff, and you've gone through some of the basic training starting stuff with them. However, on this day in particular, fairly early in the morning, prior to any training exercises, all officers are called onto the main deck of the ship.
All right.
And this is called to you through your own personal comm link, but it's out. It's also overhead as well. To all officers to report to the bridge.
Okay. Should I also roll my force die before we
Yes,
get
good
this
call.
going?
We will both roll force dice to determine the destiny pool. I get one dark side, as is tradition, as the villain of this story.
You get 2 dark side, as is tradition.
So you rolled 1 dark side as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so a total of 2 dark side to start off. Great, perfect start. I love it.
I love danger. Odds stacked against me.
All right, and with that, I assume you're going to report to the bridge?
Yep. I'll go to the bridge, and I'll probably look for Lieutenant Hardell, and
it's Aldell.
Aldell?
Yeah, it's Lieutenant Raz is his first name, but it's Lieutenant Aldell. A-L-D-L.
Oh, I heard R. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Aldell. All right. Yeah, I'll look for him and just kind of, I'll mosey on up and just ask him, what's the deal? What's going on here? Haven't been called. All commanders been called like this for a long time. He's
going to you definitely can spot him as you come in, and you kind of naturally move to whatever position he's in, because there's kind of like a little rows of people lining up, and they're kind of organizing by their own groups and stuff. You can see on the opposite side over there Captain Hyde, who he is in a later version of clone ARC Trooper armor. His armor is still white, but it has purple detailing on it along kind of the edges and stuff. Kind of like a dark purple. But he's on that other side there, and as you pull up and say this to Lieutenant Aldell, he kind of looks over to you and he says, "By my understanding, there's some sort of new request sent from on high. The Titan's being deployed out somewhere. Some sort of rebel incursion or something. Some sort of groups of people causing trouble in an Outer Rim world, and they decided that the Titan could use some more live training and is sending us there as a support vessel for a new blockade."
All right. Well, doesn't surprise me. With each new batch of troopers we get, it seems they get worse and worse.
he chuckles.
That's what happens when you allow anybody to join the Empire.
He chuckles and nods, and he says, "Well, the Empire's decided to go away from the glory days of just using test tubes to make the best soldiers," he says, kind of nudging you.
I kind of just nod my head like, yeah, fair enough.
And then there's a voice kind of rings out saying, "Attention, Commodore on deck." Everybody stands at attention. I assume you do as well. And stepping on Commodore Sonoma Carr steps in front of you. She's a fairly elderly woman, still very like sturdy and good shape. You know, she's been a naval officer since there was Republic times.
Would I have known her at any point during the Republic?
You probably, during that time, she was probably a lesser naval officer. So it's okay. Certainly likely that you like had interactions where you were operating out of a fleet that she was in charge of a vessel in or something along those lines, but probably not like directly having just by the nature of your two positions, you probably didn't directly report to her at any point.
I would encounter her in passing, but it wouldn't be something like it wouldn't be something where I could walk up and be like, what the hell's going on here? Like, kind of deal.
Yeah. You've for the last couple of years been underneath her, like she's been your direct charge person over this entire vessel, but you would know that like she's very by the books, and over these last couple of years you've learned that like buddy with her just isn't a thing. You don't really go up and say, hey, what's going on here? You like, it's very like she's on deck, salute. It's very by the books with everything.
Okay.
And she addresses all of you saying that let me get to the right position, saying that we have been given a new assignment. The Titan is to relocate to Jaresh. There is likely insurgent activity in this area, and an Imperial blockade has been ordered. Our vessel is to be an assistant vessel to this, helping in the blockade, while others are sending landing craft and beginning to sweep the planet for these insurgents. It is possible we will be needed for other ops during this time, but as of right now, our indication is to move and assist in the blockade around the planet itself. Make sure that all troopers and officers in training are aware of this and understand the gravity of the situation, that whenever we have orders related to this new charge, that these will no longer be drills.
Okay. Makes sense. Well, I mean, is that the gist of the information?
Yeah, she gives you that. So that you're going to the planet called Jaresh. You know it's an Outer Rim world. Go ahead and actually make me a knowledge Outer Rim. See what you know about it.
All right. What difficulty? Just no difficulty?
We'll just say average. Just an average difficulty.
Okay. One success.
One success. You've heard of Jaresh. It's a fairly well-known Outer Rim world in the sense of like it's a fairly peaceful and like it's not usually the problem child Outer Rim planet. It's not in hut space. It's something that's known more for its markets than anything else. It's got like sky markets above it, and the land itself is occupied by cities and stuff, but mostly like people making wares and then going to these sky markets to sell them. And it's kind of seen as like a trade hub.
So you know, the ideal place for rebels to hide out.
It's not the kind of place where you'd expect a need for a heavy Imperial presence, because it's not usually a troubling place for Empire.
Yeah.
It is a planet that is under Imperial control, of course. But yeah, that's what you know about Jaresh, and that's where you guys are heading next.
All right. After we're dismissed, I would look at Hardell and be like, and just kind of say, organize the new recruits. We're going to have to inform them on what's about to happen. And we'll hold a training session as we get set to arrive near Jaresh and the blockade.
Okay.
Pretty much.
He nods, says yes, sir, and he's going to move on to do so and start to kind of spread that information to. You have like multiple different groups of troopers that are stationed in different parts of the ship, of course, but this ship itself, it is still very much an Imperial Star Destroyer, but a lot of the innards of it are very different than an average one, because there's like lots of space used for training simulators and all that kind of stuff. So, but there's normal quarters and stuff like that with these different groups in it, and he'll go and start circulating the word.
Okay. On that note, I'm gonna walk up to Captain Hyde.
Okay.
And kind of just make note at it's a little suspicious, not the word. It's kind of interesting, you know, they're having us go be a part of a blockade with a bunch of training, a new batch of trainees.
He's gonna look to you and say, strange indeed, but I feel sorry for you more than myself. At least when we're operating out of a blockade, naval officer recruits will have something to do. A bunch of stormtroopers sitting on a ship doesn't seem to help much in a blockade. I'm guessing it's going to be business as usual for your department.
It'll be fine. We'll just keep running them through the simulations. They're going to need all the target practice they can get.
He nods. From what I've glanced, it looks like this most recent batch couldn't hit the broadside of a bantha.
It just seems like with each new batch, they just get worse. We'll have to see what we can make of these soldiers.
Hopefully we can make soldiers out of them.
Yeah. And probably on that note, I'll kind of nod to Captain Hyde and make my way towards the training rooms to meet all the recruits.
Okay. And by the time you kind of get there, people are starting to filter in already. It seems like Lieutenant Aldell has kind of gone through and spread the word, and the troops are all kind of going to the main meeting training grounds for the stormtroopers, and are all kind of in position. And it's worth saying they're not in like stormtrooper armor. They're in like Navy school uniforms, and they, you know, that for certain exercise and stuff they would put laminate on and stuff like that. But moving around the ship, they're in training armor or training gear, clothing.
Yep.
And they're all there, and as you enter in, they stand at attention.
Okay, and as I walk in, I look at Lieutenant Aldell and then turn towards the recruits and just kind of lay out the information that's been told. I preface everything by saying we will most likely not be needed for any incursions, so this will be business as usual, training as usual. We're going to start with simulations and hopefully help improve your combat abilities here. You'll need all the help you can get. That one I kind of mutter to myself.
You'll need all the help you can get. Okay.
Yeah, I'll send the recruits to get ready, prepped, put their armor on, and it's like report back here within the hour or whatever.
Okay.
And
the time they'll quickly as soon as you give them leave, they will go and begin preparation for training exercises for the day. And during this next little bit, there's like, you're going to get to a hyperspace lane and travel out to this world, because you were on more like mid-rim worlds for your previous training exercises, and they're now moving out to the outer rim. So there'll be some time traveling out there. Go ahead and describe what does training look like? What does your version of Imperial Stormtrooper training look like?
Pretty much within the simulations, we break up kind of like you would with clone trooper training. All the units are broken up into smaller squads, put into a simulation. Instead of fighting separatist droids, they're battling against rebellions or whatever, and they're given a direct objective, and the idea is, as a squad, they should be able to effectively work together and complete an objective within that squad.
Okay.
Granted, it's not going to be like most squads, like with clone troopers, where it's like, okay, you have a squad of 6. These are squads of like up to 10 to 15 trainees, all trying to follow direct orders and whatnot. I'm
just picturing kind of like a shooting gallery with pop-up targets, but the pop-up targets are just like innocent aliens holding their children. Because the Empire's a bunch of bastards. That's not what it actually is, but that's what's going on in my head.
It's like the Men in Black scene where Will Smith shoots the little girl. Why'd you shoot her? She's studying physics. That ain't right.
That ain't right. You see the way that innocent alien mother was looking at me? She was asking to start a rebellion. Had the blaster.
That dude over there, he wasn't doing nothing. He's just sneezing. He's got a handkerchief.
And then with this training, what kind of officer are you as a training officer? Are you fairly lenient? Are you fairly strict? Like the troopers that fail or that make poor decisions, what kind of reprimanding do you do? Like what's your leadership style?
For squads that fail to complete the objective, I would say I'm a harsh commanding officer. I am one to give out punishments or really reprimand or yell at, almost to the point where I want to kind of like smack them, but I don't.
Okay.
But it's just more of it's a lot of in your face yelling, and a lot of punishments, and but I'm also lenient to a point where it's like, okay, you failed, but you got this far. So it's like, okay, this is where you need to improve, and as long as I'm seeing this kind of effort or there's progress being made, kind of deal.
Okay. So, strict but fair.
Yes.
Strict but fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the best way I could put myself.
Okay. During the kind of next little bit, there is this first kind of travel day. This is day that you kind of get this next objective that you guys are going to be going to go and take part in. My words are not coming out very good right now. You, at one point during training, get like a splitting headache.
Yeah, okay.
And you've kind of started to have these recently, where you get this like kind of sharp pain in the back of your head, and you usually have to like kind of step away for a second and gather yourself. And this one feels very similar to those, where you start to get this kind of weird pain in the back of your head, and it's kind of this sharp stinging sensation.
Okay. Yeah, so, if I get the headache, I kind of like put my hand on my head. At this point, I'll look to Lieutenant Ardell and just be like, "You continue with the training simulations. I need to go lie down. Something isn't right here."
Okay. You can step away, go to your quarters, lie down for a bit, kind of try and get it.
I'll say, like, I'll sit on the bed, and then just kind of, I'll kind of just start to kind of look around, look at everything within my quarters, maybe start digging through for my plasters to try and clean them or maintain my equipment, kind of deal here.
Okay. During this time, you kind of do the very soldier thing of like dismantling and rebuilding your gun 3 times to make sure everything's perfect, even though you've done that so recently that it's still very fine. Everything's clean. Everything's ready to roll. And you have this. It takes a little while for this headache to clear, and during it, it's kind of this thing of like you feel this headache and then like close your eyes down for a second to try and like let the current wave of sharp pain pass. And when you do, you find yourself like reliving moments that we don't need to go into the detail of at this exact second.
Yeah.
But things that you can as a player know, like just kind of hard memories and stuff that, since you've gotten these headaches and since these have started showing up, you've had these kind of hard conflicting feelings, and these kind of understandings of some things that have happened in your past. And it seems almost like you've had this inhibition in the past that has taken away a lot of these thoughts and not made you really process them. That's when this headache's happening, those kind of go away briefly and they kind of realize the gravity of previous situations.
Okay.
It's not a pleasant experience.
It's I would doubt it. I would doubt it. Headaches suck in any in any circumstance. Once the headache's kind of gone away and I've like gathered my thoughts, I'm gonna go look for Captain Hyde to talk with him about this. See if maybe he's been experiencing the same things as me. I'm wondering if it's like a thing related with with us clones.
You can definitely track him down. You can see that when you find him, he's got a group of officers who are all at different consoles, and he seems to be watching them inputting something in this consoles, and it seems to be something. It's almost like a like battlefield map of ship combat. That's like, it's almost like they're playing 3D Battleship on this, and they're having to like think and maneuver and how to like precisely place the right pieces in the right place to win different situations. And he's kind of just walking around looking over the shoulders of different officers and giving critiques and like as people fail, like coming over their shoulder and explaining to them what poor positioning moves they made and stuff like that to make it happen.
Could I look over the shoulders of one of them and do like a warfare check?
Yeah, go ahead and make an average knowledge warfare.
2 successes and 2 threats.
You looking over his shoulder, you can see like this is a guy that Captain Hyde just kind of walked past previously and didn't seem to critique. But you looking over his shoulder, you realize that this guy's like very out of position with a very key destroyer in this situation that's going to leave something wide open to where like this simulation is not going to end well for him. It's just you'd have to be able to kind of play chess and see 3 moves ahead to realize how bad this is about to end for him in the simulation.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna keep watching and just see how just watch the simulation kind of, as he progresses. And just be like, see, should have done that.
And you have that moment, like it takes a couple of moments of watching as this kind of ship's moving to position, and you can see that like this destroyer not in position left a wide open lane for bombers to move in and take out like a capital ship of the fleet that he was pretend commanding here. And you kind of give him the little advice like, out of position there over your shoulder. And as you kind of give that advice, Captain Hyde recognizes that you're there, and he turns and says, "Commander on deck," and all the officers pause their simulations, stand up and salute, and he says, "At ease, as you were," and they turn back, go back to their simulations, and he walks up and says, "Badger, what can I do for you?"
Well, I'm looking to chat with you here. As pretty recently, I wanted to see if you're kind of experiencing the same thing. Have you been getting splitting headaches and I don't even know how I would describe it. Thoughts of, it's gonna sound weird. Thoughts of inhibition? Like you're just, like feelings have been blocked?
Go ahead and roll me a persuasion, I believe, or it's a negotiation, as I think it was.
Negotiation?
Yep. It'll be an average negotiation. There will be a setback die on it. For reasons, who knows?
Okay. 1 advantage, 2 failures.
Okay. The failure is that he doesn't agree with you. He says, like, not something I've been experiencing, but I suggest you go and go to the med ward and see if old Drake can figure out what's going on. You might have some sort of space sickness going on and need to get looked at. But you can tell with those advantages by the tone of his voice, he just lied to you. Like, he seems to be uncomfortable with the fact that he's feeling the same way you're feeling, and doesn't seem to be willing to share it with you.
I'll kind of, like, give him this tilted look, like, kind of that look like, I know you know that I know you just lied to me, but I'm not gonna press it further in front of his cadets.
Okay.
So I'll just kind of be like, yeah, I'll take that advice. I'm gonna go see the medic now. See what's going on here. Okay. So yeah, I will go to medic Drake. All
right, the medical ward. This ship is also in a lesser way. Like there is training medical staff here. It's not the primary purpose of this, but as a training vessel, it just works well to also have some medical officers training here. But the lead medical officer is Drake, and entering in, again, like as soon as you enter in, he's like, "Commander on deck," and everyone comes and they salute, and then he says, "At ease as you were," and they go back to whatever tasks they were working on. And he comes up and says, "How can I help you, Commander?"
Well, hoping you can help me with something. Over the past couple days, maybe weeks, been getting these splitting headaches, but they don't seem normal. And I think I'll just kind of leave it as vague as I can possibly can.
He'll kind of. I assume you're not wearing your helmet right now.
Yeah, I'll take it off the moment I start talking.
And he's just gonna look around. He seems like he's just kind of monitoring for any sort of like abrasions or injuries or anything like that. And he'll say like, "Did you have any sort of falls or hits to the head recently?"
No, not recently.
Any specific location where you're feeling this headache?
It's more in the back of the head. Like it hits everywhere, but it's strongest when it's at the back.
He's gonna how about this? I think we could do a scan and see if we can figure out exactly what's going on here. I might need to have you sedated for it, though, as this can be a fairly invasive and not super comfortable procedure. It'll just be to get a more thorough understanding of what's going on. The Jerry is suspicious.
Very suspicious. I'm like, is it?
If you'd like to, go ahead and we'll say roll a perception to see if you can like glean anything off of him.
Okay, average.
Yeah, we'll call it average.
Okay. Nothing.
Nothing. Straight nothing.
Yeah.
It seems like he's being honest that he's going to be doing this game. Like as far as you can tell, he doesn't seem to be anything fishy going on. And you would know that like for a fairly invasive brain scan that it would be a very unpleasant experience. So being sedated for would probably be more comfortable. So logically, it makes sense, and he doesn't seem to be. He seems to be on the up and up as far as you can tell.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, gotta be careful after Captain Hyde had to lie to me. That bastard.
No good scumbag. He will have you kind of lay on a med bed, and a officer in training is going to come over with one of those like kind of hovering orb droids, and it has like a syringe on the end of it that it's going to come over, and it's going to, as long as you don't resist, it's going to stick you with, and you kind of slip off to sleep.
I hate those droids.
Yeah, they're super creepy. There's something so creepy about just a floating orb of torture and medicine.
It just makes me think of the Robot Chicken thing. Oh, nobody listen to Dr. Ball. He's just an old fool. It's the orb.
No one listen to Dr. Ball. And you slip off to sleep and wake up sometime later. You're not exactly sure. And waking up a little bit later, you wake up and you feel a little foggy from the sedation medicine wearing off. But apart from that, nothing seems amiss or awry.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look at Drake and just be like, so, what'd you find after poking around?
He's gonna say, well, with a fairly thorough brain scan, we were unable to discern any clear reason for this. Have you been adequately hydrating during your time here recently?
Yeah, I've been here for several years, and I can't train the new recruits if I'm dehydrated or if I'm off.
He's gonna kind of nod back. Well, makes sense. What I have here for you, and he's going to give you a Vibro bottle of pills. The running joke in these games is everything is Vibro that's in space, so it's just sitting there rattling in your hand as you try and use it. But no, you have he gives you something that says that should anything arise where you're starting to get these headaches again, taking one of these should numb that down. There doesn't seem to be any sort of direct cause for it, at least not neurologically in your brain. We'll run a little more thorough tests on the scans we have here, but in the meantime, this should at least help keep the pain at bay. Keep you mentally clear enough to avoid missing training time.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pop one back and head back towards the training grounds.
All right.
Go see what progress or little progress has been made with these new recruits.
You heading back, and like as you start heading back, you can definitely feel this medicine taking effect, and it's like it's one of those medicines. It's a lot like a lot of pain medicines where it makes your pain go away, but it also you feel a little not fully, like a little bit sedated, almost like a little bit mentally foggy and a little not as quick to react or like respond and stuff. It's not a very strong feeling. It's just a slight like I'm a little off my game right now. But the headache stops.
Okay.
And arriving back, you know that Lieutenant Aldell, bless his heart, he's a very good supporting officer, but he's kind of the good cop to your bad cop. And tends to be a little more lenient with the troops and stuff. And he seems to be fairly calmly explaining to a group of people who seems to have recently failed pretty horribly at a simulation, like what they need to do to improve.
Okay. So I walk up, Lieutenant.
Yes.
You mind telling me what's going on here?
Says, oh, Commander, well, this unit, unfortunately, we had a... he kind of said, there was a situation diffusion exercise with a group of somewhat agitated locals, and things ended a little abruptly for this group. They were.
You want to elaborate on abruptly?
And he goes into a data pad kind of bay, and he clicks on a button, and it plays a playback of the simulation, and you can see the commanding officer in training of this group of stormtroopers basically getting in a shouting match and escalating the situation to where it turns to bloodshed far too quickly and not really doing a good job of diffusing it all.
I'm gonna look to that commanding officer. I'm gonna call him forward towards me.
Okay, and he'll nod. I'll go, yes sir, and step forward, standing at attention in front of you.
I'm just gonna look at him and be like, so that situation got out of hand rather quickly for a simulation.
He's gonna be like, permission to speak, sir.
Go on.
He's like, sir, my understanding is that as Imperial Stormtroopers, it is our prerogative to quell any sort of...
Hold the hand up, stop him right there. It is your job to quell uprisings, but what your job is not is to go and harass the locals who are just trying to live their life under the Empire.
Sir, yes, sir.
Now, if you're going to try and get into a shouting match with anybody, I like to see you try that with somebody who's above your skill grade.
Rather not, sir. Understood, sir.
Don't ever let this happen again.
Sir, yes, sir.
So I look at Lieutenant and I'm like, I'm just thinking I'll think to myself, well, they need to understand they need to understand this situation. So I'm like, Lieutenant, take them up to the viewing area and watch and let them see how it should be handled. And and I will run the simulation.
Okay.
And, kind of show them personally, this is what needs to be done. Yada yada.
All right, go ahead and, for the sake of the simulation, just go ahead and roll me an easy negotiation.
2 successes and a threat.
Okay. The situation, the way you break it down, the situation is a fairly tense one, and you could see how somebody with less resolve would just immediately resort to, I'm in charge here, shut up and move along. But you're able to diffuse the situation successfully. It's still it's a simulation. There's still kind of this heated situation around you, but you're able to diffuse it and disperse this kind of small crowd that's gathered successfully during the simulation.
Okay. Once I succeed, I turn towards them and be like, "See how easy that was? Just gotta keep calm and don't let your pride get the better of you."
And they all, him as well as the rest of that unit, all salute and say, "Sir, yes, sir."
All right, and I'll dismiss him and be like, go to the mess hall, get some grub, and I call down the lieutenant to see how the other training simulations went today.
Okay, he'll kind of give you a rundown. Overall, it's what you've been seeing so far. It's trending in the right direction, but something you've definitely noticed over the last couple groups of recruits coming to you is they seem to be getting more aggressive and less effective. Every new group seems to be a little more brainwashed and a little more we're in charge here. If there's a situation, you don't diffuse a situation, you have authority, you tell people to move along, and if that doesn't work, you use force. And that seems to be the mindset of a lot of the new recruits coming in from their previous training from other academies that are filtering to the Titan. It seems like that is kind of a pervasive theme of the response to situations, though overall that was one of the more unsuccessful of the simulations of the day. A lot of the other ones are combat simulations, and it seems like while they're not great yet, they are improving from previous combat simulations.
Okay. Well, seems like we have a trend here with the Empire with their just training programs here, seems like.
Yeah, the lieutenant will be like, I think that fanaticism is more and more a likely and respected trait in naval officers at these academies.
Seems like it. Okay, this is what we're. I'm kind of gonna lay out I'm gonna lay out this here. Tomorrow, I want the best squad with me. And I'm gonna run a simulation with them, which will devolve into combat. We'll see what kind of grit these soldiers really have.
Yes, sir. Would you like us to? And he kind of gives you like a look and says, "Dial up the combat a little bit for this simulation."
Would we want to do anything else?
Of course not, sir.
I'm also gonna get on the comm and kind of inform the medical officer, Drag, like, heads up for tomorrow. You're probably gonna have some recruits going in.
All right. Sounds good. And so with that, yeah, you will. Yeah, it's kind of a little past midday at this point, or actually probably kind of into the evening at this point with all the training and the time in, under the sedation, and you'll be able to go to the mess hall yourself if you'd like, get some grub for the evening, and it's not too long off from sleepy time. Is there anything else you're wanting to do that day or that evening?
Probably not. Just probably, yeah. Done everything that I would want to do for that day. So,
okay.
You know, so just grab some grub and go back for sleepy time.
All right, sleepy time achieved. Next morning, kind of just to streamline things, you'll be able to regather, get the troops back together, and he has a group of 4 troopers who are going to be with you, who are kind of the 4 most outstanding of the recruits in his eyes. And he has a simulation ready for you. It seems like the simulation that's set up is one where you are having to basically like breach and clear a structure. What looks like kind of looks like a outer rim like cantina kind of building that has apparently been overrun by insurgents who are refusing to leave the place and are believed to be armed and dangerous and need to be quelled.
Okay. All right, troops. This kind of just lay down the rundown that you gave me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to be here to help if things go awry. I'm going to be giving you orders, but it's going to be up to you to be the ones to initiate and quell these insurgents that are within this cantina.
They all
so,
sir, yes, sir.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll have them all form up around the entrance. I'm assuming the door is closed.
It is.
Like to the entrance?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It seems like it's closed and sealed.
Okay, so yeah, I'll have them all pretty much form up around the door, and I'll order one of them to blow the door away and have another one ready with like a stun grenade or something.
Okay.
One's ready with a stun and another ready with like a smoke for them to get in quickly.
All right. So for the sake of this, you're more there to watch and not to assist.
Kind of like a lead. If there's gonna be any roles, it'd be like a leadership role, I would think.
Okay.
Like I'd be leading them.
Go ahead and roll me a leadership, and then a knowledge warfare, both of which will be average.
Okay. For the leadership role, it's 1 threat.
Okay.
And for the warfare role, 2 successes and a threat.
All right. It seems like with your lead, like you lay things out well. It seems like they hear you but don't fully listen to you. Like they go through the kind of steps in the order you say to, and they seem to be overall like the situation is successful. Like they move in and they seem to all be fairly good shots, especially for stormtroopers, and seem to be fairly effective at taking these guys out. But treated as like they did a lot of their shooting rolls were like 3 success with 2 threat. Like every step of the way they were being uncautious and leaving like openings that were bad for the overall situation. They seemed to be effective at shooting the people, but in a way that was unregimented and like poorly executed. And that's kind of like your knowledge warfare. Like that's the kind of read you get on the situation, and the threat is it's like that's kind of not a good sign. They seem to be effective, but they don't seem to be coordinated well.
Yeah. And I'll have them regroup around me. And I'm just gonna kind of ask them first, and just be like, so, how well do you think this simulation went?
Let's see what they think.
How do they feel about this?
they seem to think that they're kind of in the mindset of like, well, it was successful. We by the simulation says we successfully completed it, so it seems like we were able to complete the objective effectively.
Yes, you were able to complete the objective, but you failed on a couple things here. You left openings. You didn't have each other's backs. One enemy coming in from the outside would have taken all four of you out. Is that really how you want to complete your objectives?
Sir, no, sir.
You're all clearly great. You can all clearly shoot, which is more than I can say for the rest of you. As I look back slowly,
and they're all standing at attention, but they're standing at attention in a way that gives off the energy of somebody like looking away and scratching the back of their head, like.
But this attitude of we're only clearing the objective is going to get you all killed. This isn't how warfare works. You're only dealing with simulations. And if it were up to me, we'd be going down to Daresh to help with the cleansing, give you real experience. But unfortunately, can't do that. Unfortunately, that's not in our orders. So we have to deal with this. Yeah, I just kind of leave it at that, and I'm just like dismissed.
Okay, they all see the message seems to be received. A lesson has definitely been learned here today, not only by them but by the onlooking other troopers.
Yep.
Go ahead and roll me, or actually first, it is this day that after some time after this simulation, your Star Destroyer arrives outside of Jaresh. And you can kind of go. You can, from any of the viewing ports, or you're welcome to come and go from the deck as well. You're kind of able to see that there is, including yours, a total of 3 Star Destroyers now stationed outside of the planet, seeming to have a fairly strong showing of force here. And you can distantly see shuttles coming and going from these other 2 ships, and that the current kind of job of your ship is mainly going to be to hail incoming and outgoing ships and make sure they have proper Imperial clearance before they're allowed to land or to leave Jaresh.
Okay.
And doing scans, which is entirely not your jurisdiction. That's all the other half of this training program. So kind of that Captain Hyde said, it's like, this is very much a great training exercise for the other guys on board this ship, and a pretty boring. It's like business as usual for you.
Yeah, nothing. And once we arrive, I'll go find Captain Hyde,
okay,
and just kind of. I'm gonna kind of ask him the details, like what is it that you and your trainees are gonna be called to do.
He says that. I am going to be very busy for a little while, as my trainees will be the ones on comms hailing these incoming and outgoing vessels and making sure they have proper clearance to enter or leave the system. And I will be the person for any of those calls that get escalated past what these trainees are capable of doing over comms. And that means that I'm going to be busy on a comm link for the next couple days, I'm thinking. Or for however long our station is here.
Sounds about right. Damn rebels can't just making our jobs harder.
You'd think that people would want a strong government to help keep them safe, especially out here on the Outer Rim.
Things just ain't like they used to be.
You can say that again.
Yeah. Well, I'll leave you to it, and I'll just walk away from him. Kind of leave it be.
Okay.
Leave it be for now. Kind of wait and see how the day plays out, what kind of orders come through. Mm-hmm. Or if any come through.
The day plays out fairly uninterestingly. It's still kind of business as usual, training as usual. The only real point of... there's no real points of contention. There's a couple of times where a ship does not have proper clearance codes, and you are... There's at least one on this day, and you are asked to send a group on board a shuttle to land and sweep this ship to make sure it's safe to land. It doesn't have proper clearance codes. It could feasibly land, but you want to do a thorough search of the ship first. And they want you and a group of your trainees to do it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming we do it and we find nothing of out of the ordinary.
Entering onto it seems to be like a decent sized freighter vessel, and you go ahead and give me a leadership role for
Yeah.
kind of coordinating this with these troops, and I'll roll some
Average.
stuff for them. Yes, average.
One failure.
Okay. It seems like these guys are kind of hard to corral into doing their job effectively for something that's not combat focused. But overall, they do a sweep of the ship. Nothing seems to be amiss. They're not able to find anything that's like contraband. The people on board all have clean files, so it seems like it's safe for them to go through and land there.
Can I do maybe like do a once over myself?
Yeah, go for it. Go and give me a notice.
Perception.
Yeah,
Nope.
or perception. Perception.
Yeah.
What's running a game in 3 different RPG systems right now? My brain just jumps to whatever the first word for a skill that comes to it is.
One success and 2 threats.
1 success, 2 threats. You moving through this ship find a smuggling compartment that has blasters on. That has like a decent number of blasters on board and explosives.
Okay. I call my squads back and just tell them to pretty much put the crew at gunpoint here or
Okay.
blaster point, so we can figure out what's going on here.
All right. They kind of move through and gather, like, by force, very much, gather the entire crew and get them on board, like, the main deck of the ship.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna look for whoever. I'm pretty much just gonna ask, be like, and just kind of flat out just be like, want to explain the equipment, the blasters here, or not that. How can I put it? There we go. Like, lots of heavy equipment and armaments for such a small frigate.
The crew on board the ship all just kind of sink their heads and avoid eye contact with you. They seem like, oh shit, we've been caught, kind of energy coming off of them.
Does some just kind? I'm gonna ask. Somebody want to tell me? Can one of you explain what you're gonna be doing with this?
There's no response.
Okay. Looks like we'll have to do things the hard way. I'll signal one of them to grab, like, one of the crewmates,
Okay.
hold him as hostage.
He does so.
And,
Hoist him up off the ground to his feet.
I'll kind of get eye level with the hostage and just be like, "You want to talk, or are we gonna have to blast your crew here?"
Go ahead and give me a coercion.
Coercion.
Coercion. An average coercion check.
Failure.
Failure.
One failure.
He's going to look up at you with a rebellious fire in his eyes, and he's going to say, "You can shoot all of us. We won't tell anything to you, Imperial scum."
That's fine. Pretty much the moment he says that, I signal them to shoot everybody but him.
Okay? Blasters rain in, and the crew is executed.
Yeah. And I'll kind of give him one more look, and can I access the ship's computers to like see if there's...
They might be encrypted or something. It might require like computers checks to get information out of them, but you could certainly attempt to do so.
You know what? Let me try to do one more coercion, and I'll just be like, "So you just be like, you want to run that by me again?"
Go ahead and roll me another coercion, another average coercion on him.
One success.
Okay. He seems to be like very sad and kind of beaten down at this situation. He doesn't really like. He just kind of sinks his head and shakes it. He doesn't share, like, he doesn't say anything to you. But it seems like that rebellious, like, "Yeah, you can suck it" kind of mentality has very much turned to like, "Oh god, this is how I die" kind of mentality.
Poor choice of words. Yeah, pretty much. Okay. Well, since he's not gonna talk, we'll take him as a prisoner, and we'll take the ship and try to access the computer to see if there's if there's information on it.
Okay. Are you personally accessing that, or are you waiting for someone else?
I'll do a computer. I'll do a computers check.
Okay. Go ahead and give me an average computers.
I have a skill in that. 2 successes.
2 successes. You are able to kind of intercept, or basically like go through and find like a comms, almost like a chat log that does like, it seems to detail a drop-off point that they were going to.
Okay. With this information, I'll put the information on like a data pad, and I'll look to Lieutenant Alden or Aldale, excuse me, and be like, we're gonna have to go report this to the Commodore.
And he says, of course, sir.
We have a drop off.
And with that, you're able to kind of impound the ship, take it in. This guy's going to be taken for more thorough questioning, like torture-induced questioning, likely. And this information is going to be sent up. It seems that like the actual interception of this meeting point is going to be handled by squads on planet already, but it is passed along, and they're going to go to this drop-off point and try and intercept whoever was expecting these arms to be delivered.
Okay.
And you are commended by the Commodore. You, as well as your trainees, are commended by the Commodore for finding this.
Yeah, well, it wasn't... It required a little bit more... more care than I would have hoped to get involved in, but I guess we were able to find this information.
And for the sake, like, when you return back to the ship, Aldel wasn't, like, on this excursion with you. He stayed back. Yeah. But returning back, being commended on this work, we're sharing this information to the Commodore and kind of leaving the bridge. Lieutenant Aldel kind of flags you down in the hallway as you're returning back towards your normal quarters. And he's going to kind of walk over, and he's going to kind of like gesture to a passage that's kind of off the main walkway and be like, Commander, can I have a word with you for a moment?
Lieutenant? Yeah.
And
what's going on?
Stepping aside, says, I don't know exactly how to word that. I have a concern for something that may be happening on board soon.
Explain.
And he kind of like looks down the hall and looks back at you, and he says, look, Badger, this is off the record, but I overheard a conversation between some senior officers in the officers' quarters earlier today, and apparently there's some operation that's begun to be, that the intel of has begun to being sent out to senior officers, and I think it may have something to do with you and Captain Hyde.
Well, they've been trying to decommission the clones for several years now. Yeah, looks like time has finally caught up with us.
Says, I know that there's been, as far as like combat roles, that the clones have been more or less entirely phased out. I overheard them say something about an Operation Excision. I don't know what that means, but I heard both you and Hyde's name mentioned directly when they were discussing it. And something about the ISB.
Okay. Well, keep this information under lock and key. I need to go have a word with Hyde.
And he nods and says, of course, Commander. And kind of straightens his jacket out and walks away from the conversation.
This isn't gonna... Oh, well, this day just got a lot more interesting.
And with that, I think that's what we're going to call the first episode.
Yeah.
Having heard this information, what you do with it, I guess we will find out next time. And I think that's going to be pretty close to one episode's worth of time. What is Operation Excision? What does this mean? Thank you, Jerry, for this first episode. I'm excited to keep this story going. Excited for these different stories to, at some point, twist and combine together. Thank you all for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this first episode, and we will see you in the next one.